Hi guys, hello everyone. So today I'm going to talk about trauma and how it can lead to a soul becoming trapped in its own mind. And I want to also talk about how there's a part of me that is starting to wonder if in this new, like in the last few years, there's been such a heavy push for us to release traumas and release karma and do your shadow work, inner child work, that I'm starting to wonder if this isn't a false light teaching, guys. I'm going to explain, I'm going to tell you a story about a client of mine, and then I'm going to share with you something that happened to me one night after working on this client that's making me believe that this may be something, maybe, I guess I'm saying I'm not sure that all is as it seems with all this trauma work and things like that. So what is trauma? And I know that people use this word quite a bit, but for me, what I've learned is that the first thing is our soul signs up for everything. We create our reality. And we're like the Truman Show, right? We're in our own reality. And we decide what's happening to us that day. Even if it's the worst thing, we decided for that to happen. And yes, there's a reality that there's part of it that has to do with the collective as well, the collective's reality. But I'm talking about your reality right now. And it's hard for people to understand, but every event that happens to us is because we chose it to happen to us. And the reason why we have trauma, or at least what I believe, is that trauma is a lesson. That's all it is. It's a category. It's a category of lessons. And it's so for me, it's an energy. It's an energy of the lesson. And there's many different types of lessons. But so trauma would be considered like a subcategory of lessons, like different types of lessons. So what is trauma based on that, if we look at it as a lesson? A trauma is a lesson in the consequences of the choices that a soul makes and how the soul accepts responsibility for those choices. I repeat that again. So, trauma is an energy, and it is an energy of lesson. And this lesson is a lesson that is based on the consequences of the choices that a soul makes and how that soul accepts responsibilities for those choices. So basically, a trauma is a consequence of choice. Simply put, that is what a trauma is. Somehow in this world, we have totally messed it up, and it's got a whole different meaning. And I think that the meaning that it's like victim. I think that the word, they seem to go hand in hand today in this world, but I think that once we start understanding what trauma really is, that's just a consequence. It's a consequence of a choice that we make. I think that once we grasp that, there will be so many changes that will happen in this world. I disagree. I hate therapists. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry if any of my subscribers are therapists, and I mean, I was a nurse, and I was called Nurse Ratchet a few times because I just laid it out. I just said it out how I felt, and I'm going to do that in this video. So this may not resonate. This might trigger some people. That's okay. You can turn it off now if you're getting triggered. It's okay. But I'm going to Nurse Ratchet all of you guys right now. But for me, therapists, we drag trauma on and on, 8, 9 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it is. What would happen to that trauma session if the therapist looked at that trauma as a consequence of a choice that we made? And what did we learn from it? What would happen to a session that you go into about trauma, and instead of reliving the trauma over and over and over and over again, and they give you antidepressant pills and all kinds of shit, what would happen if we took the ego out of it, took away the identity of the trauma that we've created? Because of the trauma, we created this identity, we identify with it, and we just focused on why. Examining the consequence of a choice that we made. And then accepting that we made that choice. That trauma is ours to own. Wow, that would be really different, wouldn't it? I think it would be a totally different therapy session if we were to do that. But we don't. We are trained to keep people on victim. Oh, tell me the story again. Well, how did you feel about that? What did you think about that? Maybe instead of saying how you feel, what do you think about that? Maybe we should just bluntly be asking, what did you learn from it? Turn it around so that it doesn't become, wow, that was really, that person shouldn't have hit you, this, that, whatever. And just said, what did you learn from it? Because that's what it is. It's a lesson. What did you learn from it? Anyway, maybe I simplify things too much. But my thoughts are, and what I've seen is what can happen if you go too deeply into the trauma is you can become, you go into a victim. So you have the trauma, and then you go into the victim, and then the victim, you create imbalance in the victim because now you're in the shadow. If you're hanging on to the trauma as identity, now you're going to the shadow of the victim archetype. And then what happens? And then you start spiraling downward. Downward and downward and downward. And where do you think you end up? You end up basically becoming a soul trapped in its mind. This is something that can happen, and it is one of the most difficult things for a soul to be free of, to break free of. But it can happen. It can happen if the trauma becomes your identity. Or you have that unbalance in victim. And we allow, what happens is we allow our mind to take over and start to make our decisions for us. Because we're in an imbalance, right? And a victim is basically being powerless. So what happens is the soul, because the soul feels powerless, it steps back from driving the human vehicle, sits in the back seat and says to the mind, you drive. And then what happens to the mind? The mind takes over. And the mind fills us with fear, fills us with anxiety, it fills us with that sense of powerlessness. Then it can even create illusions. Our minds can create the illusion that we're sick from this trauma or whatever's happened. So I'm gonna tell you a story about one of my clients to give an example of this, and how she became trapped in her own mind, and her mind actually fed her the illusion of being sick. And then it became, what was happening was she was being shown that she wanted to learn something about being powerless. And I know you're all going to be like, he wants to learn about being powerless. But my client was a woman who pretty much was the male, if you will, of the husband and wife relationship. Her husband wasn't working. She took over the finances. She worked. She was the one who basically created the power in the house. She was the power unit. So when she started getting divorced, I think that she must have, in a moment, wanted to experience what did it feel to be powerless. Because all this time, all these years, she held the power. But what's the opposite of that? So she decided one night to go out. And she told me in her session that she was nervous. She felt uneasy about going out. And she didn't know if that was the right decision or not. And then she was with an intuitive. An intuitive was staying at her house. And then the intuitive asked what she was doing that night. And she told her, oh, I'm going to go out, with some friends. And the intuitive said, be careful. I don't think you should. And my client didn't tell the intuitive that she was feeling uneasy as well. But she decided she was going to go out anyway. So here we go. This begins the choices. Right? This begins the choices. My client made the decision. She felt this uneasiness. She still decided to go out. She had an intuitive tell her, I don't know if you should do that. Maybe not today. She still did it. She made that choice. So she goes out to a local hangout, and she's sitting there, and she meets this group of people that she's never seen before. She starts talking with them and stuff, and she got like a weird vibe from them. And she felt like, oh, I should probably leave this group and go somewhere else. But again, she decided to stay. So eventually someone in the group passed a joint, and my client says she doesn't do drugs, but for some reason that night she decided to do it. Again, another choice. So she does the joint, and she's like, I felt like I was numb, Denise. And then this group that she was with started speaking a different language. And what we discovered was they were doing a ritual on her that night. So she ends up feeling something go through her body. A year later, she hasn't been right since that night. And now she's dealing with black mold. She got really sick. She ended up staying somewhere where there was black mold, and in her physical body, she became really sick. But all of this stems, this mold and this sickness, all of this stems from that night. And as she's sitting there and she's telling me, I was really traumatized by this. You have no idea how traumatized I was. I trusted these people. I did this and that. And she's going on, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I hate to say this, but you're playing the victim. Oh, no, I'm not. No. I know. I made those choices. I chose to smoke the joint. I chose to go after I was told not to. The uneasiness I felt, I still did it. Blah, blah, blah. But they did this to me. They did this to me. But they did this to me. That's still not accepting responsibility, and that's still placing you into the victim. So she understood part of the lesson of the trauma, but she didn't understand the rest. And what happened was, because she didn't understand the rest, she attached herself to the victim archetype because of this trauma, this lesson. So, because she kept retelling this story in her head, in her mind, to her friends, to anyone who would listen, it started forming her identity. And then she started, because of what they had placed on her, she started being unable to do certain things. So she ends up in this place with black mold, and now the black mold is making her sick. So again, the victim is this black mold. I'm really sick because of the black mold, but I'm feeling powerless because of this group of people, what they did to me a year ago. I was totally healthy, and then this happened, with this group of people, and now I have black mold to deal with, and now physically I'm sick, and I just don't know what else to do, and I'm so beside myself, all this. So basically, she stepped away. She stepped away and started to allow her mind to take over. So she ended up creating an imbalance in the victim archetype. So this imbalance of that she was creating of the victim, she was really going in the shadow of the victim, way down deep into the shadow of it. And she couldn't break free of what that archetype had created. So her mind, because she allowed her mind to take the reins, jump in the driver's seat, the mind created the illusion that she was sick from the black mold. And I know what all you're going to say, oh no, black mold can lead to this and this and this. But how much of this is things that we create? How much of our illnesses is because we create it? So the message that I got was that if I could get her to understand that this mind trap that she was in was a lesson from the trauma, and it was all about being powerless to something unseen. So that night with those people, she felt powerless, but yet she had made all the choices to be there. Then she didn't know what they did. She kept saying, I don't know what they did, but they did something. They did something to me, Denise. They did something to me. So that's the unseen. So oftentimes with black mold is we don't see the mold. We get sick. It's an unseen, I don't want to say enemy, but it's an unseen, I guess an enemy, I guess you could stick with that word, but it's unseen. Sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't, and it's not until we start experiencing physical symptoms and start delving into it that we discover the black mold. So this is what she was doing. She discovered that by going to another healer, she had discovered that they had placed a demon on her. So she had this moment of feeling powerless, of something unseen that night. She felt it enter her. Then she started digging, wondering what was this that she wasn't what she felt, and she discovered that it was a demon. So, going into the physical now, So she's sick, and she starts exploring why she's sick, and she discovers the black mold. So she was dealing with something unseen again, and then, just like in the demon, was able to see the unseen. I hope this is making sense. But she ended up, I released the demon, we released the demon, my group, and resolved her contracts and broke the ritual and all that stuff for her. Well, now, because she had formed an identity to that event and could no longer use that, she ended up basically, because she had already allowed the mind to step forward, she started spiraling downward. And she got to such a point that she couldn't make any decisions at all. Her mind was giving her all kinds of stuff, fear and this and that, and talking to her, she was so scattered and stuff. So I guess what I'm saying is that the universe, there's such a fine line with doing trauma work and victim. And it's a slippery slope sometimes. And when you allow that trauma to become an identity for your ego, that's when you start the downward slide. And when you turn around, now you're in the downward slide of the trauma. You go into the victim archetype, and you just keep right on sliding down. Right on sliding down. You're on a sheet of ice and you're just going down. And what can happen is your mind takes over. Because you're just like, take the wheel, I'm done, just let. So for her, the only way, there's not a healer in the world that's going to help her right now. She literally is the only one that can save herself, because she has to recognize what she's done, what she's created, and gain her power back. And the only way you gain your power back is through yourself. So I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen with her. But it got me thinking, about all this trauma work that we're told to do and guided to do, and find, past lives and karma and stuff. But it got me thinking about how it's, society makes us, it's so easy to be a victim, right? We even get paid to be a victim by our government, at least in the United States anyway. We get paid to be a victim. But if you are a productive part of society at the end of the year and you pay taxes, anyway, so they penalize you when you're a productive piece of society and not a victim. What I've learned is our guides or our higher self, whatever you resonate with, the universe, don't go looking for it. Don't go looking for past lifetimes. Don't go looking for past lifetimes. I did myself too. Past lifetimes, I went and when I started waking up, I was losing my 3D identity, and I was still stuck in my ego, and I was like, well, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And I started delving into my past lifetimes. Well, we are billions of years old, guys. Okay? Your past lifetimes are going to come out, and it's going to be the past lifetimes that are important, that there's a reason for it. And those past lifetimes will reveal karma, it'll reveal contracts, or it'll reveal trauma that needs to be released. You don't need to go digging for it. Eventually it will surface. And sometimes if you're digging for it, why are you digging for it? Is it because you need to find that ego identity? You need to explain something about yourself? Or make an excuse about why you do certain things? So question why are you looking for that trauma? What are you looking for that trauma? Are you looking at it as a way to explain why you do something? Or are you looking at it to define who you are? I don't know if that makes sense. But I had an event that happened to me after I sat with this client, and this was like a couple weeks with her. And I finally had to step away because I realized I couldn't help her. And I was sitting in my room and I was thinking about how we relive traumas over and over again. You know, we relive, for a lot of these new age teachings and things like that, find your trauma, you know, do the work on the trauma, you'll start lightening the load, you'll ascend, whatever it is. But I got to thinking, why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we dig up stuff? Why do we do this? Is it really necessary? Is it really necessary for us to dig up these traumas and past lifetimes and karma and relive them, if you will? All of a sudden, I heard this voice. And now this being has come to me, I think this is the third time now. And it's an asexual being, meaning it's not masculine, it's not feminine. It's very neutral feeling, completely neutral. And I hear it up here. I don't hear it down here. I hear it up here. I don't know how to explain that to you guys. Those that are clairaudient understand what I'm saying. It's important positioning of guides and stuff to make sure you're talking to beings of the light. So that's one of the ways you can check to make sure this person's your guide, this entity is your guide and not an entity that's coming through. But anyway, that's another story. But this came from up here, like where my crown was, like all those upper chakras. And I heard it say, as I'm sitting here thinking, are we meant to relive all this stuff? Are we meant to go back and relive this over and over again? Clear as a bell, I heard, why would I do that? What? And I heard it again. Why would I do that? I love you. I was like, oh shit. So, for me, what I heard was the highest version of myself. And I believe that God is within all of us. And I believe that that was something within me much higher. And it's right. If you love someone, why would you have them repeat things, relive things over and over again? So all of a sudden it hit me, I think that all this is a human construct. I don't think we need to do this, guys. I don't think we need to do this. I don't know. I'm still processing it. Let's put it that way. I'm still processing it and trying to figure out, is a lot of this work even necessary? Are we meant to simply be present? And whatever needs to be released will come to us. Is it simply becoming present? Because if we become present, we start to understand self. We start to understand ourself more. It's not our past lifetime. It's not our past lifetimes keeps us in the past. The future keeps us away from the now. it's like reliving all these traumas over and over again only sets the energy of the past again. So we create this, what they're showing me right now is we create this loop. And we keep reliving a trauma. We just keep and that becomes almost like a soul trap as well. Because we're reliving this trauma over and over again. So it creates this energy going around and around. And it keeps us stuck in the past rather than being present. So I honestly think that maybe, and this sounds so simple, what is the lesson of the consequence or trauma of your choice? I don't know. Maybe that's how we need to start looking at traumas. I don't know. I don't know, guys. Just makes me wonder. So, anyway, this video is long enough, and I hope I hope you were able to understand where I was going with all of this. But if you did, please hit the like, let me know, and hit the subscribe if you want more of my craziness and experiences and understandings. And again, only take what resonates with you. This is just my experience, and I'm just sharing what I'm discovering in my reality. And I always leave my email, so if you feel uncomfortable but you want to reach out to someone to talk about a situation, feel free. You can email me down below. And I also have my website included in case you need some help. If you feel that there's something from this unseen world that's around you and you want some help with it. I've also started doing land clearings as well. I've been doing them for a long time now, but I've never offered it to people's homes unless I've been guided on a personal level. But now I'm putting it out there to start clearing people's homes, land, things like that. So if you feel like there's an energy in your home or your place, you can check out the website under land and home clearing, and I explain what I do and what I use and what I clear. So anyway, have a great day, guys. Let me know if this resonated with you guys, any thoughts about this, and yeah, have a great day.